Hello, guys. Welcome to this new edition of Mind Podcast. This is Aadit Kapadia, and together with me, our good friend, our returning champion, and psephologist par excellence, Jay Mrug.
Hi guys.
He's
Hi.
hey, Jay. Welcome to Mind Podcast again.
Yeah. Hi. It's been a pleasure always, Aadit. Always a
Yeah.
pleasure.
So Jay and I are going to finish our election coverage trio. I say trio because we did a whole 3 episode series on election coverage. The first one we did like a preview of what happened in the UP elections and other Punjab and I mean all the states basically. But UP, Punjab, and Goa we focused on very closely, and a bit of Uttarakhand as well. The the next we did was a podcast with Nalin Mehta where we talked about his book and why the BJP is where it is, and the future of the BJP and so forth. And the third, and sort of previewing the assembly elections. And now we're going to do the third one in the series, which is going to be an analysis of all the states that went to polls. So before we share, the results, I mean, you all know the results, right? But before we share our screens and kind of show what numbers we got, over to you, Jay. What are your, quick takes on this? And for all our viewers, listeners live, I mean, please feel free to ask questions. Just post it as comments or tweet to us at Mindmakers or at ASK0704 or at JAIMRUG, like one of us, and we'll take your questions. So, Jay, your initial take before we get into the nitty gritties.
I think I would like to borrow from the lexicon of the analysts of yesteryears. When Sheila Dikshit ruled Delhi for 3 times in a row, by the time it was a third victory, they said this is now the natural party of governance in Delhi. I was just looking at the vote shares, Adit. UP since 2014, Goa since 2012. I mean, the BJP's vote share is constant almost. In a way, it's emerging as a natural party of governance in those states. You keep Uttarakhand out, but you take Goa, you take UP, now maybe Manipur, sort of, but it's emerging as a natural party of governance. That's a fascinating phenomenon. For the first time, a non-Congress party is taking such a space. So
Wow.
I think it's going to be fascinating.
Is this the first time since independent India, pan India? Because see, earlier you had like Janta Dal and the Lok Dal and all those, Sandhi alliances just doing it in like a few states here and there. But this
Yeah.
time you're saying BJP is emerging as that alternative pan nationally.
Not only that, you see, those Sanyukta Vidhayak Dal type of experiments and Janta type of experiments, they wouldn't last beyond a tenure,
Yeah.
right? Now the BJP is showing capacity to last on its own for 2 tenures or more, right? So that's the fascinating part of it. It means if you talk of non-Congress parties which perhaps achieved it was only the left front in Bengal and the Biju Janta Dal in Orissa, right? But now here you have a national party achieving a similar feat, which is worthy of a long analysis.
And here we are to do that long analysis. But let's get started, right? Let's get started with the discussion in Uttar Pradesh. Before I share the numbers, right? This is one of the most historic wins in Uttar Pradesh, right? As no party has come back to power in the last 5 decades like this after completing a full 5 years.
Yeah, absolutely. None in the last 5 decades.
So okay, then let's start with the numbers of Uttar Pradesh, and I'm going to share our screens, folks, and then we'll get into this. So we'll come back to Goa, I promise you. But this is the Election Commission of India website. So I mean, if you have any issues, please blame the EC, not me, with the thing. But no, I think it's a very comprehensive look. So this is the pie chart of Uttar Pradesh. BJP
Yeah.
got about 41.3% just by itself. BJP had two allies, the Apna Dal and the Nishad Party, which is the Nirbal Indian Soshit Hamara Aam Dal. And both Nishad Party and Apna Dal did remarkably well. I think Apna Dal fought like 17 or 18 seats and won 12. The
112.
Nishad, yeah, the Nishad Party, I don't know how many it contested, but it won 6 seats. And
Yeah.
of course, the BJP won 255 seats in a stunning victory. Now, the Samajwadi Party and others, like they won about Samajwadi Party's alliance 111 seats, RLD 8 seats, and Mr. Rajbhar's party, the Suhail Dev's Bharatiya Samaj Party, Om Prakash Rajbhar's party won 6 seats. So together they won 125 seats. And the BJP alliance won 273 seats. I'm sorry. So
Yeah.
stunning
I
victory.
think, I think, I think, I think, Adit, no, let's put these numbers in perspective.
Yeah,
Now, last time the BJP's tally with its allies was 323,
yeah,
with a vote share of 42.4%. That was with its allies. Okay. In the Lok Sabha, the BJP was at 49.5 with its allies. Okay. Now, the astounding part is that in the assembly, you have the BJP. Now, if you now 41.4 is BJP on its own. Actually, it means there is a mild accretion to the BJP's vote base. Okay. If you add the allies now, we're going to look at a vote share of something like 45%. Okay. Which is a mere 4.5% dip from the Lok Sabha. So now, the first point to make for our viewers is normally between a Lok Sabha and an assembly, the dips are anywhere between 9 and 20%. Okay. Here the dip is just 4.5, which
yeah,
shows a unique consolidation that has lasted 8 years, 2014 to 2022. Fascinatingly unique consolidation lasting 8 years. That's point number one.
yeah.
Point number two, there is an absolute decimation of the BSP. In fact, if you look at Mayawati's press conference a couple of days ago, she is not yet lost her old argument, her old narrative that it is a biased media which gave wrong opinion polls, which said that the BSP is the B team of the BJP. I mean, you might just want to remind our viewers that it was she who unilaterally snapped this alliance in 2019 after the Lok Sabha polls, saying, let Akhilesh get his politics right. And none of this wonderful Manuwadi media uh, has questioned her that, now whose politics was right, Akhilesh or yours? And I don't know whether they should be called Manuwadi or anti-Manuwadi for that. I mean,
Yeah,
but so that's the point. Now she is just taking recourse to her old shibboleths, okay. But the BSP is down to a vote share which it was perhaps before between 1991 and 1993. Or this is
let's
almost the 1993 vote share of BSP.
yeah, BSP is down at 13%. This is when Kanchiram famously used to say पहला election हारने के लिए, दूसरा हराने के लिए और तीसरा जीतने के लिए, right? Now it seems like they have dropped down 3 election cycles in 2. Because
True, absolutely.
people forget that only 10 years ago she was the CM of Uttar Pradesh in 2012, and I
Yes.
understand she was on the decline, but even as the second best party in Uttar Pradesh, she got 80 seats, right? It was the
80 seats,
BJP,
and it was a 27% respectable vote share that she had.
right?
Right. So then, since then, she has been on a continuous journey downhill. One really doesn't know what was behind her mind, what were her motives to stay out of the election. Right? I mean, to stay out of an alliance, to stay out of aggressive campaigning. I mean, her whole policy of not going in for alliances, she might have to review. I mean, we'll go to Uttarakhand, but in the neighboring Uttarakhand, the gap between the BJP and the Congress is 6.5%, and the BSP is at 4.85. I mean, she could have made some value by going into an alliance. Right? So I think that's when we come to Uttarakhand and an overall perspective, we should look at the BSP. Look at the Congress. It's down to 3%. It's the party has practically disappeared. See, there's some very, very interesting facets of this election, Adit. But I'll first deal with the gross level numbers. Yeah.
Yeah,
Now, there is a visible loss of the BJP in Western UP, about 25 to 27 seats, Western UP and Royalkhand put together.
yeah,
Right? So if you add those 27 to 273, it is 300.
yeah,
Right? They lost an ally which was having a great presence in East UP, which was Om Prakash Rajbhar, right? Who has himself won 6 seats, right? Now, if you add that as an alliance synergy, you can add another 15 seats to that. So that is
correct.
315. which practically means the BJP could have the potential to repeat the 2017 tally with a much more enhanced vote base. I think this is a complete no-brainer. I mean, which
Unbelievable.
means the party actually consolidated on the ground.
Wow. So
Okay.
you're telling me that the BJP actually, with a few seats here and there, could actually have repeated the 2017 tally.
Absolutely. The same allies, that is OP Rajbharan, and no farmer protest, which means BJP was going to repeat the 2017 tally. I mean, and that too after being 5 years in governance, after having faced the second wave of corona migration during the lockdown.
Yeah.
This, given all that, is a stupendous performance.
No, let's, because this is very interesting, right? Because you are talking about the decline of Mayawati and the decline of Congress. Let's look at the
Yeah,
Congress, right? Congress is at
yeah,
2.33%. They have done worse than Ajit Singh, right? And
yeah,
I don't think in the history of Uttar Pradesh someone has ever done worse than Ajit Singh's party, because like amongst the major parties, because Ajit Singh's party, I mean, it only stands in some districts of Western UP, the Bagpat, Mathura, Hathras belt, right? So,
yeah,
so you have a ridiculous sort of jump down of the vote share. But I want to like talk a little bit about the Congress, and then we are going to go with the Uttar Pradesh results by district and by by
yeah,
region, because that the story is even more comprehensive.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. See, look, as far as the Indian National Congress is concerned, I think even in areas in and around Amethi, they've done very, very poorly, right? So the Congress has at best managed to poll the votes that are the votes of the individual candidates. Whereas
Yeah.
the candidate could poll something for himself, he's polled, which practically means that in the eyes of the Uttar Pradesh voter, the Congress does not carry any brand equity.
So the basically
This
what
is
you
the underlying headline, you know?
no, what you are telling me is that this is the only thing they have repeated is the Republic of Rampur Khas, which is
Yeah,
Pramod
yeah,
Tiwari's old seat. Which, by the
yeah,
for our viewers and listeners, I'll tell you, because a lot of you guys will be listening to this on SoundCloud. I will I'll say, because this is live and because we are doing some screen sharing and showing the seats, so you'll have to come to the YouTube page to look at those. So I apologize for that, guys. But you can, if for those of us, our folks who are listening to us on SoundCloud later, this Pramod Tiwari has won the seat, had used to win this seat for like 8 or 9 times in a row, and how it didn't matter however good or bad the Congress did across the state, they would always win Rampur Khas, and now his daughter wins Rampur Khas, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah, 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 yeah,
It's
yeah,
unbelievable. So walk through this map of UP, Jay. I mean, this is insane, right? I mean, look at the saffron wave. The BJP has pretty much swept UP. I think the
yeah,
only districts where the Samajwadi Party has caused a significant impact is a bit of the Purvanchal region, bit of the old Awadh region, where the Sefai, Etawah belt, and so forth.
yeah,
The some sort of losses and gains in Bundelkhand, but then again the parties in blue that you see are also the BJP allies, if I'm not
yeah,
mistaken, and
yeah,
the in yellow I think is also the ally. So basically, if you look at it, I mean, it's a sweep, right? And
yeah,
what BJP will take heart from is the performance in Western Uttar Pradesh, because
yeah,
Western Uttar Pradesh was a area of concern, and except for a few districts where there has been some sort of a Muslim Yadav coalition or a little bit of the Muslim Jat coalition along with the RLDA, that's where the BJP has lost a few seats. But it did so well last time that it was bound to lose a
yeah,
few seats, but it seems
yeah,
more or less it's recovered, or at least it's held on to a lot of its old base.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I think there are a couple of fascinating things in this. One is that while the Yadavs have retained their bastions around Jaswant Nagar, that's the small thing you see in the lower half,
Yeah.
right? That's Jaswant Nagar, Itawa. Yeah, yeah, just in that lower half. Yeah, yeah, absolutely where your cursor is right now. Yeah, the different color from the BJP you see there's a Yadav influence,
Yeah.
right? Now, if you go up, the entire area bordering Nepal, it's very interesting. That is a fairly Muslim dominant belt. I mean, Muslim voters are anywhere upwards of 30% over there. There, the BJP somehow seems to have a polarized vote where the SP alliance has picked nothing. If you look at the SP alliance's picks, they're parts of the upper Doab, that is the upper area above Delhi. Okay, the real area of the agitation focus, they're there. Then they are in pockets of Ruhelkhand in a big way. That is Sambhal, Rampur, all of that, which
Yeah.
is again understandable because there is a good MY combination working there, right? The rest of the entire central region, the BJP has swept completely. Now, just scroll down a little bit. You're going to the eastern part of the state. Now, this is a part of the state where there is a traditional Yadav vote. There is a substantial Muslim vote as well. Okay. Now, there again in stretches, the SP has done well. Okay. Yet the BJP does show great consolidation in Purvachal. Primarily, if you take the region between Gorakhpur and Balia, now that's the
Yeah.
small saffron patch you're seeing on the right hand side of the state. Yeah, that small patch.
Right.
That is like, you can say, courtesy the chief minister being from there. And what is more interesting is, ideally, that entire lower part of the state, if you just go down, the last sort of district in Uttar Pradesh, which is Robertsganj. Yeah, this limb is Robertsganj, right? You go from Robertsganj via Allahabad down right until Agra up. So parts of Bundelkhand and Agra. This is actually the BSP old stronghold. In fact, even when the BSP started doing well in 96, 98, it was in this region that the BSP picked up seats. Most of the early stalwarts, Nasimuddin Siddiqui, Mr. Brijlal Khabri, they're all from this belt. And that is where is the real stunning news that most of the BSP voters have actually walked over potentially to the BJP. Right? So again, if you look at Mayawati's press conference there, she is saying that मेरे समाज के लोगों ने तो कम से कम मुझे वोट दिया, उसके मैं उनकी बहुत आभारी हूं, जितना भी ऋण हो मेरा कम है. Right? Where she acknowledges basically that the other communities among the SCs, they actually walked over to the BJP, and this
No,
the
but
lower consolidation you're seeing is absolutely that sort of the belt which has gone over to the BJP.
no. So but I think even her saying that मेरे समाज के लोगों ने वोट दिया is a bit of a fraud analysis because there is ample evidence in post poll surveys that actually some of the Jatav vote and especially the non-Jatav OBC vote that used to go with Mayawati, but certainly even parts of the Jatav vote are slowly eroding and going towards the BJP. So and you saw that in parts of Western UP where they said that a lot of the Jat vote, if it was a Muslim candidate from the SPRLD, they have switched to the BJP, and then in many cases the votes has gone to the BJP. So this has basically sent the analysts for a toss as well. क्या हो रहा है and the BJP for see now here is the thing, the 41% is misleading because the reason I say it misleading is because you have to also include the allies of what votes they got, and the allies won't be listed here, but I think if you they'll be in the others because of they fought only 18 seats, but I think if you add it up it goes up to a solid 42% or a little bit above
No,
42%.
that's why I said no. It is much more. It should go up to 45
Yeah, 45.
because because see the allies have themselves. If you add the Nishad party and Apna Dal, you're looking at something like 20 seats, 18 seats,
Yeah, 18
right?
seats. Yeah.
Those 18 seats easily mean some 3% vote.
Exactly.
So
So
you're talking of a number which is 44 plus for the BJP and allies.
yeah, I was trying to see if there is a detailed analysis yet here, but no. But this is how good or bad the exit polls did. See, now this is one of the things. Okay, I find this very funny because every exit poll claimed that they got it right. And I was of the opinion that I personally thought that the BJP would end up around this range, but the reason why my numbers were this a little on the conservative side was because I in the Western UP where there were a lot of marginal seats, I just wasn't sure which way would go. But before people jump up and down, just take a look. very few Axis Mindia did get a few states right, but they were a little off in the range and stuff. But we'll give it to them that they all got the trends right, at least. That this
Yeah.
was the BJP's thing, election essentially, that way. What is interesting is now UP, after sort of. Uh, 15 years or 20 years now, it's firmly a bipolar election. Now there are BSP and Congress exists in pockets, right? So
Yeah.
is this a first time for Uttar Pradesh where it's a bipolar election?
No, the last time it got close to bipolar was 1989. Okay, where also there were loose seat adjustments between the BJP and the Janata Dal. I mean, the BJP was like a 2.5 poll, something like that. But this is the first time in so many years that the top two parties, the BJP and the SP, between themselves, have 75% of the vote. That's an
Excellent.
achievement for Uttar
Yeah,
Pradesh,
yeah, yeah.
right? So in a way, for the first time, it's got truly bipolar, which it never was maybe in the last 3 decades. Never was.
So this is interesting then. So basically, you're saying that this is sort of a watershed election for Uttar Pradesh, and
Yeah.
now we just have to see ultimately what happens after like a few sort of election cycles. But the decline of Mayawati, which seemed imminent, is sort of, the question is whether it's terminal or whether it's, if Mayawati can pause this slide. But the question right now is almost that the can we assume that the Muslim vote this time has gone lock, stock, and barrel to the Samajwadi Party and them, and it's not really gone to the what
Yeah.
you may
No,
call
no, the BSP. Now,
BSP.
that is absolutely the case. I mean, if you look across the state, one thing that in all the pre-election journalist reports, feedback from the ground, one thing was very clear is that the Muslim vote said we are one tarafa this time. So it's all gone to the SP, which is also quite evident in the decline. I mean, I've seen so many assembly seat results where the BSP had Muslim candidates and they have polled 10%, 12%, which practically means maybe even the Muslims did not vote for them. So that is the reality. They have gravitated to the poll, which is the best to defeat the BJP. Now, it is really upon Mayawati if she plans to survive what she really wants to do next. I think she's run out of ideas and imagination. She's still talking only caste. She might need to go above that, talk IOU. She might need to talk different issues, right? Just the cadre and saying that by adding cadre we get the master key to power is not a formula that's going to work forever.
Absolutely. So, and then we'll come back to Uttar Pradesh, I guess, in before we wrap up. But since we are on a bit of a time crunch, we have an hour, just a little bit over an hour to discuss all the states. So from UP, I'll go to Punjab, and then we'll go back to Uttarakhand. Uttarakhand is a fascinating story. Punjab is a story that I don't think anyone, the extent of which people imagined. I mean, look at the margins. The Aam Aadmi Party won 92 seats out of 117. BSP won one seat, but I have to give it a, before people think is of it as, oh, BSP making inroads. This is actually a significant decline because BSP used to win a lot more in Punjab, and this is in alliance with Shiromani Akali Dal, who actually only won three. Like the
Yeah.
decline of Akali Dal is the scariest and most interesting story that we want to discuss. The reason I say scariest is because this is Punjab was a rotating thing, election, and the Akali Dal leadership has completely basically capitulated. So I don't know if how where the Panthik vote will go, but we'll talk about that late in a second. 18 votes went to the Harakiri committing Punjab Congress because they went from Amrinder Singh to Channi to Sidhu to God knows what. And the BJP got two seats. Now, last time the BJP had one, and one or three, I think I'm
Three,
mistaking.
three,
Yeah,
three.
three. Sorry, and the BJP had, but the BJP has got still held on to the 6 to 7% vote share that it had in Punjab. So. Talk a little bit about Punjab. Aam Aadmi, again, that 42%. 42% seems to be the theme of this election. AAP also got 42% in Punjab. But of course, this is what I want to point out to our viewers, right? This is what happens. When you get 42% in a multi-cornered contest, you get 80 to 90% of the seats, which is what happened to BJP in 2017 because BSP still had about 22% of the vote share. So BJP got 312, even with a lower vote share. This time BJP gets 42%, but it essentially is a bipolar contest. So BJP, the NDA gets about 273 seats. If it was a quadrangular contest, the number could have been upwards of 320 or 330.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Now,
so
now
talk a
look at
little bit
this.
about this. Yeah.
See, the BJP has held on to its. What's very interesting. It's held on to its traditional, base, which is upwards of Amritsar. So the BJP has won Mukeria. The BJP has won Pathankot. This is an area where the BJP has traditionally been strong. However, what's interesting is BJP is completely lost out in Amritsar, which was once its base. I mean, you had a senior leader like Lakshmi Kanta Chawla winning from Amritsar. She's still the national vice president of BJP. And, Mr. Navjot Singh Sidhu went from the BJP, had also won from Amritsar. Right? Now, there's been a complete washout.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think, Aadit, we should, as analysts also, we should now start looking a little bit beyond caste. There's a very interesting analysis which I had done way back in 2015 and 16. That states like Goa and Punjab are very similar to Delhi in terms of the income levels, the extent of urbanization, the consumption patterns, okay, which makes them behave similarly. So that, in a way, partially explains why outside Delhi, the AAP has got votes in Goa and Punjab. They won seats in Goa also, right?
Yeah.
So sort of explains that, Now, what is more interesting is, and I think this is something the BJP, Akali, and the Congress should have taken note of way back in 2017 itself. The AAP had already emerged as the opposition party. Now, the easiest thing to do is to always discredit a party and say, oh, yeah, it won some seats in the election, but now there is no momentum. Nobody cares for the party. It's over. The leaders are defected. I think if I look back at history, Aadit, that is the most harebrained strategy you can have. I'm using the word harebrained. Okay.
You're being very generous here.
historically, whenever a party has seized the opposition space, it has always been the party in waiting either in the next election or the election that follows that.
Correct.
Even in Karnataka, I'll give a very interesting example. The Janata Dal emerged as the opposition party in 1989. 1991, BJP took up the opposition space. Okay.
Or Goa. We'll come to Goa, but same MGP and BJP.
Yeah. Absolutely. In Karnataka. However, in spite of conquering 29 to 30% votes in 1991, as far as the Vidhan Sabha election mindset was concerned for the people of Karnataka, it was the Janata Dal which was the opposition. So in 1994, when the assembly election was held, Janata Dal came to power. BJP was still third in the vote share.
Yeah.
So once a party within an assembly takes the position of an opposition party, it should not be written off. It is in a way the next party in waiting to come to power in the people's mind. And with a slight anti-incumbency, people just move. And the Congress did more than that to give the people the triggers. They changed the chief ministers. They had a public squad, between Mr. Sidhu and Mr. Amrinder Singh, right? And then there was a chief minister whom they said is from the Dalit community, but it appears the Dalits themselves did not rally completely behind him.
Yeah. Right? And the real question is, and this is something we talked about when we did the podcast with Nalin, that that the BJP, where it had gained it was not just saying we have had token leaders here or token leaders there and so forth, right? They have the representation has percolated in the across the communities, where you don't need a minister of a certain community, you have the panth pramukh and things like that. So the community felt represented. Again, these are not, I'm not giving this views. Nalin did that after a lot of research, and you go back to our podcast to discuss this. So thank you for the comment, by the way, guys. Please listen, please keep writing to us.
Yeah.
Any questions you have, we'll be happy to take in the last 20 minutes of the discussion. But coming back to this, the numbers, right? The Congress 23%, right? The decline is unbelievable, in double digit decline. Here is what the story of the election is, which is the Akali Dal. The Akali Dal got about 18.4% and then 1.77 of the BSP. Now, Akalis and BJPs, this is where it flips it around, right? Akalis and BJPs used to be in alliance. BJP used to be in alliance, and BJP would get close to 7 to 8%, which more or less BJP has maintained. I think if BJP was a serious, I mean, it was only a contender in 5 or 6 seats this time, because of a variety of reasons. But if BJP again were to be a serious contender, or if people of Punjab would have first seen how they did in the first the 10 or 12 seats where they actually gave it a huge fight, BJP would have been upwards of 7 or 8%. But you add this BJP percent to the Akali vote, and suddenly their vote share jumps over the Congress, and then
Yes.
they becomes a contender in the Hindu seats of Punjab also. So
Yeah.
I think the Akalis probably committed political harakiri by distancing themselves from the BJP, because they might have lost out on at least 10 seats, because the additional Hindu vote going on a few Sikh seats, and then a few Sikh votes going on the Hindu seats. Then if they had been in alliance, they probably would have crossed at least 15 or 20 in this
Yeah,
setup.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. They would have. They would have. And see, what is most important to see is that actually the Akalis and the BJP was a very good geographic alliance. The BJP was more stronger in the urban and Majha type of areas. The Akalis were more stronger in the rural and Malwa type of areas. So, in a way, it was a very geographically and chemistry wise matching alliance. Okay. Therefore, they would have flipped the Congress to the post of opposition. Right. Now, the way I see it going forward is the fact that the BJP likes to be adventurous. You know, see, even in a state like Andhra Pradesh, they are not directly saying yes to the TDP. It is a TDP which is bending over backwards to say, hey, we're going to have an alliance with India in 2024. It's not the BJP which is doing that. It's very ironic. If just read the local press, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I think in Punjab you could see something similar. Given the fact that the BJP is prone to be adventurous, they might still want to try it out themselves for the next 1 or 2 years to see what is the traction they can generate, right? Because remember one thing, while the BJP does suffer the image of being the party which was against the farmers during the stir, right? The Akalis suffer a still more serious credibility crisis with both the Badals losing. So, I mean, it's not that the Akalis are more, better poised than the BJP to make something of this situation. Both of them are in equal trouble, or
So
maybe in an equally weak situation.
here is where it gets funny. If you look at the Republic of Lambi, right? I always call all these old stalwart seats, right? Republic of Lambi. Prakash Singh Badal, who's not lost, who's very young, 98, right? He has not. I mean, kudos to him to fight an election at this age, right? Uh, he lost. He's never lost the seat. I don't remember the last time he lost a seat. He lost the seat by 10,000 votes.
Right, 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 right.
That is,
He lost
but
his seat by 10,000.
yeah, and 12,000 actually. I changed that. But here is where it gets interesting, right? Look at these numbers. Sorry, this is Goa. We'll look at Punjab for a. Here is where it's good news for the BJP. Where if you look at these few seats right here, in the Phagwara, Hoshiarpur, Gurdaspur belt, BJP has actually done like gotten number two in a lot of seats.
Yeah,
I'm trying to pull up those because election commission, you see, like Rajpura, another. So
yeah.
there are many seats like this where they have a chance, I think, of actually causing a bit of an upset in the next election if the cadre actually works for more. And the BJP is known for doing that, the old RSS cadre and so forth. Another one, Jalandhar North, right? Again, all of these are relatively smaller margins which can be overcome in an election if they actually paid. So is this a time, is the time very ripe where BJP could emerge as the opposition to the Aam Aadmi Party after the complete capitulation of the sort of the
Akalis,
Akalis
Akalis and the Congress.
and the Congress's harakiri?
Yeah, absolutely. See, you have to always remember one thing.
Yeah,
The BJP, see, I always say it's what always enhances the party's vote share is its spirit to fight. I'll
correct.
even go back to a very recent local self-body election, which has been completely missed in this huge din, which was the Tamil Nadu urban polls,
Yeah,
right?
we
The
talked we
BJP,
talked about this.
we
We
talked
talked
about
about
it.
this.
The BJP has got 5.4%, which
Yeah,
is not great to a person who's not aware of Tamil Nadu. But even in Lok Sabha polls, the BJP would not cross 3 if it contested on its own. And here you're talking of a municipal election and it's doubled the vote share,
yeah.
right? And the party has invested in a leader like Annamalai, right? So the key is with a 6.5 to 7% vote and a few seats where it was easily the runner up, which means in the absence of a wave, it could have actually turned in a better number, right? If there is a focus, the BJP can, look to saying that whatever 12 we won in an alliance with the Akalis in 2012, वो 12 सीटें तो हम खुद निकाल सकते हैं मेहनत करके वो they will say that, right? So then that I think that will be their calculation in trying to stick out on their own for the next 1 or 2 years. That
Yeah.
let's see if we can make that a little bit on our own. Remember one thing: in a state where all the other parties are declining, there are going to be many rats wanting to desert the sinking ship,
Yeah,
and they are not one but two sinking ships.
correct.
Right? So I think, and BJP is, as I always say, it was always very good to be a cut and paste party. Cut, paste, cut, paste.
So we have two questions, Jay, that have come right now. One is, what was it the freebie promise in Punjab, and the second question was BJP allowed to contest that many districts of Punjab with when they were in alliance with Akali, and then
Yeah,
with the Punjab Lok Congress it didn't work. If you can take those two quick questions, and then we'll
yeah,
move
sure,
on to Goa and Uttarakhand. Yeah,
sure. I think politicians in India may they belong to the BJP, the Congress, the Aam Aadmi Party, wherever they belong, they make a mistake in assuming that freebies help them win an election. There are two debates in this. Okay, one is, do freebies help you win an election? I personally believe when the mandates are so strong, people have actually made up their mind years ago that they want a change. Freebie or no freebie, the change comes. I'm very clear about that. I mean, but a politician, given his weakness, given the fact that he's playing a high stakes game, goes in for the bait of freebies, right? And I think some of the season of freebies started 30 years ago with the 2 rupees rise of NTR, and I think that's continued unabated so far, right? That's point number one. I don't think freebies help them make it, even without freebies. See, if you look at what people didn't talk of the freebies. If you look at the interviews before the election, the people said हमारे यहाँ universities नहीं है. People said यार ये भुक्की और ये ड्रग से छुटकारा दिलाने वाली पार्टी थी. They're not
correct.
talking. People have not talked of the freebies.
That's
Now,
right.
the second thing is do some of the things, and I think this is something all the parties in India, including the Bharatiya Janata Party, in spite of its stupendous mandate, needs to take note of. They should not write off something as a freebie. Even Mr. Manohar Parrikar in 2012 in Goa said, I will bring down the price of petrol and diesel. And he actually reduced the VAT after he won the election and substituted that with another state entry tax.
Maybe, and especially with the situation, yeah, with the situation right now with the gas prices, that might be warranted.
What we want. So it is also depending on how creatively imaginative and fertile and sound the economics of a party is that is putting something in a manifesto which people call a freebie. The common people may not perceive it to be a freebie. They might think of it as a necessity.
Yeah.
And so if there is sound economics to back it up, then that is something we should welcome in a democracy. I really wouldn't want to hold that out against the aid.
Now, from the serious to the facetious, I'm talking about our lovely state of Goa, which the politically it's the craziest and wildest state
Yeah,
I have seen. Here we go.
yeah,
Goa had more players than
yeah.
seats in some for some parties, right? In some seats. I mean, who is this? Look at the pie chart and the absolute madness of Goa. Can you please explain to our viewers, our listeners, why Goa is such an
No,
insane state,
I tell
and
you one thing. I tell you
why is
one
it our
thing.
favorite state? Like politically,
I,
probably one of the favorite states to analyze.
I tell you one thing. I tell you one thing.
Yeah.
Democracy is empowering. Okay, this is a very laden statement that I'm making. Okay, the more smaller the constituencies you have in a state,
Yeah.
it's like saying that you have that many more mini republics in your own
Yeah.
language for satraps
Exactly.
to emerge. Okay, now given that the size of the republic is smaller to manage, it is therefore that much more easy to manage the smaller size of funds needed to emerge in the republic. So that's point
Yeah.
number one. Point number two, Uttarakhand also has smaller seats, and it
Yeah.
also had the problem of a huge number of parties till a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
What makes Goa different
Yeah.
is the fact that this is a coastal state with
Hmm.
its own industrial base,
Yeah.
which means be it mining, be it smaller industries, there's already a lot of small economic engines in place. So, to put it in a Silicon Valley parlance, therefore, a lot of venture fund and venture capital is already available.
Whose venture and whose capital will wait to see that. But 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 here,
So therefore, no. So Adit, to just take it so simply forward the corollary with lot
yeah.
of with if there's a market overflowing with venture fund and venture capital, you're going to see a lot of startups, however unprofitable they are.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. And here is where the madness in Goa takes place. Even after so many combination, others get 19.5% of the vote. I mean, it's
And
unbelievable.
yeah, so absolutely. So these are the private equity firms. They're
Yes.
all over.
They are the private equity firm. So let's start with the established player, right? The Oracles,
Yeah,
IBM, and the HP of Goa.
yeah.
And please
Yeah,
don't
no,
sue me
no.
for all. These are only jokes, guys. So you
Yeah,
have the
only jokes.
BJP,
Only jokes. Yeah,
BJP, Congress, and the Maharashtrawadi Gomantak Party, the old score. So BJP with 33%, Congress again declining because the Congress vote ostensibly has gone to the Trinamool Congress and the Trinamool Congress combined, which is the Maharashtrawadi Gomantak Party and TMC
yeah,
and Aam
yeah,
Aadmi Party, right? So
yeah.
explain why the Congress was not able to do. BJP is holding on to its base of 30-35% in Goa.
Yeah. No, actually, it's very interesting. I mean, if I may just put water down on the whole discussion, I would say Goa was a very static election. If you look at the BJP's performance from the first time Manohar Parrikar got them 21 seats in 2012, right? Now they are at 20 seats. The BJP's vote share that time was 34%. Okay. Then that is 34.68 to be precise. In 2017, it went down by a tad 2% to 32.48, right? And now they are back to something like 33, right? So it's practically meaning that the BJP is not changed. Now, when they first won, okay, that 34.6 in 2012, out of 21 BJP winners, 7 were Catholics. Okay. So, which means, in spite of BJP doing everything after 2017, that is getting a majority of Catholic MLAs to its side, right, which it did to consolidate power in the assembly. And the vote share is still 33 or 34%, 33.3. It means that Sam Dam Dandabhed, the best Hindu Catholic coalition that the BJP can build in Goa, has a Vidhan Sabha saturation of 34%. It's not going beyond that. So, in a way, from 2012, when Manohar Parrikar first started his South Goa and Catholic mobilization to get the 21 seat majority. Before that, the BJP never got a majority in Goa, right? Till now, it's 34% with the same chemistry, the same alliance. Okay, so in a way, the election hasn't changed, the ground hasn't changed. Look at the Congress. Go back to the Congress. In 2017, the Congress has about 28% of the vote. Okay. Now, you have, if you account for the Aam Aadmi Party's 5%, you again have 23 plus 5, which is 28.
Yeah.
So practically nothing is changed on that side also.
Yeah.
So what has in effect only changed in Goa is that between the MGP and the players whom we call the private equity players, the independents,
Yeah.
the Aam Aadmi Party has squeezed in to make some space with 7% of the vote.
Correct. And if you look at the last election, this is 2017, right? See, India mein people analyze elections with very seat specific purposes. If you see, Aam Aadmi Party already had 6.5% of the 6.3%. So to go from 6.3 to 7, and especially in a few Catholic seats, it was not very hard for them, right? So that's why they got a few. The most interesting thing is Congress had 28, and then Maharashtra Gomantak at 11.3%. So the MGP has actually lost out because of their alliance with the Trinamool Congress. They won 3 seats last time with 11%, and this time they are down to 7 and 7.6%. Now, again, the Dhaolikar brothers will always win from 2 seats because Satrap Wali effect. And this time, actually, BJP had a lot of old sort of faith. And in Goa, and I did a podcast on this. Jay and I did for Mindmakers, and Kushal and I did for his the Charvak podcast as well. The madness in Goa is on another level. Like, everyone is everywhere. There were so many ex-chief ministers contesting this time that I lost count. And there is a part from 1983 to 1999 where there are like 12, 13, or like God knows how many chief ministers, right? And that is along with presidents. The most interesting thing is the Goa Forward Party, Mr. Vijay Sardesai's party, whom when he joined with the BJP, Rajdeep Sardesai famously had a very angry meltdown. How can Vijay Sardesai join the BJP? In the Goa Forward Party last time had 3 seats with 3.5%. Now I think only he himself has won with 1 seat. Fatorda, if I'm
Fatorda.
Yeah.
So that's what I said. The squeezing has happened there. The MGP, the Goa Forward, the smaller independents, that's where the squeezing has happened. They've given some space to the AAP there, right? But ideally, the BJP and the Congress, it's a very static election if you look at it. They've maintained their database. I mean, they've maintained a vote as it is.
Absolutely. And one last thought on Goa for the Shiv Sena, because Shiv Sena decided that it is going to fight the Goa elections and got a grand total across seats of 1,000 votes. 1,026 votes. So I mean, this is the sad part, right, of the Sena. Like Sanjay Rao, and the funniest thing was, I think in Uttar Pradesh, like some of the candidate list, I think they fought like 10 or 15 elections, and somewhere they had like close to like 12 votes. I mean, not 12, sorry, 22 votes, or hundreds and things like that. It was very bad. It was very they said the Sena candidates got less than 100 votes in Kortalim, Kwepem, Vasco da Gama, and Sankulim. 55, 66, 71, and 99. I mean, this is kind of very sad.
You have to just understand one thing. The Sena stands for Marathi Asmita. And see, the contest is more symbolic than a real stakes election.
No, but the reason, I'll tell you the reason why I brought
one thing, that the Maharashtravadi Gomantak Paksh, the MGP's full form is Maharashtravadi Gomantak. So it was a Gomantak Paksh which is seeking merger with Maharashtra. No, and it was very interesting. They won the election. Okay, so they said the natural recourse now is we have a majority in the assembly, and we have contested on the plank of merging with Maharashtra. However, they said, let's have a referendum. And in the referendum, they lost. They said, we want to be independent as Goa. Right? So, the key is that there is still that Maharashtra merger sentiment there, which is a very valid sentiment. It was historically a part of Maharashtra. And the Sena, therefore, contests out of that thing. It's not necessarily a numbers contest. It's a
No,
contest that dismisses that one part of Maharashtra which should have been here.
but the reason I brought up Sena was because I think this time they did an alliance with NCP. Unlike the post poll, this is a pre poll alliance with NCP, and NCP had one seat last time. This time they got a zero. So after they found an ally, they ended up doing worse than they did last time. So, but all these
Now,
fly by
you
night.
you have to remember one thing.
Uh,
Be it other than the BJP and the Congress, rest are all self-blossoming amoeba like growing as we split and splitting as we grow private equity players. Like so
amoeba, like
it's like
I love that description. Splitting as we grow and growing as we
growing
split.
as we split, right? So
Amoeba.
they're like so all those private equity players like the amoebas. And the party symbols are merely incidental. It's okay.
Incident.
Incidentally, I have that party.
हाँ. Oh, अच्छा आज अब आप इस पार्टी में है. So it's like
Yeah,
the two seats that NCP always gets in Gujarat with like a lot of colorful operators.
Bosky. Yeah.
Bosky, Ajesh Patel, and then sometimes Kandal Jadeja also.
Yes.
See, this is what happens when you get two Gujaratis. We'll get into nitty gritties of Gujarat also, but we can promise you one thing. ये
Yeah.
एनालिसिस ज्यादा डिटेल में गुजरात इलेक्शन और हिमाचल के लिए होगा. वी प्लान टू मेक दिस अ वेरी रेगुलर रिकरिंग फीचर. So write
Absolutely.
to us, guys, what you think. And I think we got an excellent question on Shekhar Gupta's column about regional subnationalism and stuff. But I'll take that question after we are done analyzing Uttarakhand and Manipur, because it's a broader question and I think it needs to be answered. So let's guys, please keep writing questions. We'll see, we can see them and then we'll take them, as we've got a couple of questions on Twitter also. But here is the Uttarakhand, and Uttarakhand is the most stunning result, because since Uttarakhand was formed in 2000, no party has ever retained power, and BJP did everything it could to jeopardize its chances this time by changing chief ministers. There were candidate issues. Um,
Yeah.
so many issues, right? And Congress, unlike other states, has a solid 35%, 38%, 35 to 40% base there in
Yeah.
Uttarakhand.
Yes.
But what a crazy result, where both the incumbent chief minister and the challenger individually they lost. Yet BJP got 44 plus percent after Mr. Dhami losing, swept to power with 47 seats. Right, last time they had 56, and all of us, like my numbers, our numbers were closer to 40, right? But in the last
Yeah.
sort of phase where they had gotten a swing, like a 5 to 6 vote, I had no doubt in my mind that BJP was coming back. But the extent, almost a 6% jump, is quite stunning.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Now, I think what you really have to note here is that the Congress, okay, those were the days before 2017 when both the parties would alternate power, and both of them would have vote shares in the sub 35 territory, 32, 33, 31, 34. Yeah, those are the sort of vote shares and the gaps 2 to 3% that you have. For the first time, you're seeing the Congress still stuck around the 35 territory, right? But one party, the BJP, going past at 44. Okay, and if you treat 2017 as an exception, the party has also managed to cross the 40% vote share, as after being for 5 years in power. I think that is fascinating. Now,
Yeah.
we have to remember one thing here. And it is not to draw very parochial comparisons or something, but in states that do not have an advanced industrial base, right? A lot of the dole and the welfare economics really works. And
Yeah.
the fact that it is done effectively really pays electoral dividends, right? So they say that this is basically a postal and a remittance economy, right? Which means the stronger the state delivery, that much more likelihood of the incumbent to be voted back to power. And the
Yeah.
strong state delivery is what the BJP actually specialized in the post 2014 era.
Here is a controversial thing, though. The incumbent here is not the chief ministers of Uttarakhand, but the Prime Minister Narendra Modi. This is a vote for Mr. Narendra Modi, because if you In no state are you going to change chief ministers a year or year and a half before election. The only person who almost managed it for BJP is Colonel Bhuvanchand Khanduri.
Yeah, yeah, almost managed it.
Sorry,
Almost
not
managed.
Colonel. I think Major. If I mistake his
Major,
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 Major
major.
Bhuvanchand BC Khanduri. And the
Yeah.
sad part was he got 30, the BJP got 31 seats. Congress got 32. The one seat Congress got extra was Mr. Khanduri's own seat.
No, even this time, it is Mr. Dhami who has lost from Khatima, I think.
No, that's what I was saying. So that tradition has continued, but
Yeah,
and this time BJP made sure they get 46 others or 47 others rather than 31 others last time. And this is the
absolutely.
difference between Mr. Modi being the prime minister and that time the BJP being out of government in the national election. But,
Right.
but let's see one thing I wanted to show you, right, guys. BSP is down to 4.8. BSP used to get 11% in Uttarakhand. 11 to
Hmm,
12% vote share. They used to
hmm,
get one time they got 8 seats or 7 seats in Uttarakhand.
hmm, hmm.
And another decline is complete irrelevance of the Uttarakhand Kranti Dal. The
Hmm.
party that dominated, they were the Maharashtravati Gomantak party of Uttarakhand, where they
Yeah.
would get your 1 or 2 seats or 2 or 3 seats. But this is the first election since Uttarakhand was formed where they've drawn a complete blank. That
As I said, unlike Goa, there are no economic engines and there's no private equity available here. That's
yeah.
closest.
But let's okay, guys, and this is what I want to show. Look at the margins, right? Now, like now in Punjab and Uttar Pradesh, we were saying, okay, these are the margins of Goa, and then I'll switch to Uttarakhand. Look at the margins: 318, 1820. Bicholim, Dr. Chandrakant Shetty wins as an independent, and MGP loses. Correct? I mean, 2000 in the parlance of Goa, right? The 5,000 votes, 10,000 votes is a humongous margin, right? Same
Yeah.
for Uttarakhand. I mean, this Poriam, like Vishwadit Rani is Mrs. Vishwadit, this is his wife. Winning by 13,000 is a huge thing. Panaji is the most interesting one, I think, where Utpal Parikar lost, but Utpal Parikar came number two as an
By
independent.
just now the loss is by just
716 votes.
700 votes. I mean,
And
it is sorry. I mean, I believe he really worked hard.
he did,
I
no,
really
but
believe a lot of
no, but
RSS cadre backed him.
that is my thing. If you actually listen to Mr. Babush Montserrat,
Ah,
he goes by Babush, by the way. I'm not making this name up. You can look it up.
yeah.
He was disappointed. He was mad after the election that Utpal came this close. But clearly, I think this is him putting his hat in the ring that the next time there is an election in Goa, or maybe even a member of parliament election is there in Goa, he legitimately tried hard to win. I mean, this is a lot of Goans, angry Goans, and the reason I say angry Goans is a lot of BJP leaning Goans privately have told me that they were not very happy with the induction of the
Montserrat.
Montserrats within the BJP family. Now that's their position, whatever it is. The fact is the Montserrats have won, and Utpal Parikar came very close to getting that. But look at how many places the MGP came number two. Now MGP and BJP were similar sort of thing, but in Paranem, Ponda, Kwepem, MGP, Priol, MGP and BJP seem to be fighting, and like
No,
this is
no, no.
unbelievable.
See, no, no, no. Cupem, Ponda, Priol, these are all the North Goa seats. They were
No,
traditional Hindu seats.
tradition. No, but I'm saying that Congress is not in question, na. I'm saying Congress, that is the decline of the
No,
Congress,
no,
na.
no, 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 no. You have to see it like this.
Yeah.
A section of the Congress vote went away and broke and went away to AAP. The MGP and the AAP had an alliance. So, in a way, the subtle Congress anti BJP vote has gone to the MGP candidate here. That is the reason, in spite of MGP putting up good fights in so many seats, its overall vote share is still 7.8. So here the MGP is actually representing the anti-BJP Congress vote in these Hindu seats. That's the right way to put it.
So basically, you are saying that there are, but in the Christian belt of Goa, in the Christian belt is where you have seen Aam Aadmi Party and them do sort of better, right? And that is the thing. So similarly, if I were to go, like if I were to just quickly show you, The Aam Aadmi Party, I think, won the Velim seat. That's what I was going.
Yeah.
And but look at the margin, 169 votes. These are the margins of Goa. Always, you know.
Yeah,
तब
yeah,
इतना
yeah.
ही होता है.
Always, always.
So let's go to Uttarakhand similarly, and then we'll jump to Manipur. Uttarakhand again similar. Look at this, 127. There are a few. You know, you'll have the Haldwani, Haridwar, Dehradun belt where you have the very huge margins of 10,000,
Margins.
12,000 votes,
Yeah,
but still very relatively smaller compared to Uttar Pradesh, right?
yeah,
10,000, 15,000. Haridwar again, like I said,
yeah,
15,000. And
yeah.
Haldwani again, Sumit Hridesh. So they gave, I think, this is Indira Hridesh's son, if I'm not mistaken.
Tons. Yeah, yeah,
And this was her seat. So,
yeah,
but it's fascinating, right? Harish Rawat lost by a humongous margin, right? I thought they would give a safe seat to Harish Rawat, or maybe it
yeah,
was they thought of it as a safe seat, and Mr. Rawat still lost. And
yeah.
here is the funniest analysis I heard, that Priyanka Gandhi and Harish Rawat tried to win one seat and ended up losing two, because Priyanka and Harish Rawat, Priyanka was focused in Uttar Pradesh for the Congress. Harish Rawat was focused in Uttarakhand, but both of them also went to Punjab as in charges or appointed in charges and make sure Mr. Amrinder is undermined. Sidhu comes in with his, Thoko Tali attitude, then becomes the president, then resigns, then
Yeah.
is reinstated as the president. Ultimately, Channi becomes the thing, and Sidhu refuses to campaign. And I mean, this is the most maddest of thing. I think the comedy show that Mr. Sidhu is a judge on, Kapil Sharma show, probably should just do a skit on what happened to Mr. Sidhu or what he managed to do to the Congress in Punjab.
Yeah, yeah. Absolutely, absolutely.
So,
We have to take care of one thing.
yeah.
And this is for our viewers. See, a serious politician is a serious politician. Okay. A Zelensky becomes a great president when he really faces a war and a bomb on his head. But till then, maybe he is Zelensky the comedian. You
Hmm.
know, that's a lesson for all Indian politicians as well.
Interesting. And if someone is a serious politician and becomes a comedian, then that's that's
No,
a
no, no.
news in
So it's,
itself.
then it goes back to, I mean, a little serious talk, but it goes back to what Krishna says in the Gita, that better your own dharma than the dharma of somebody else. So you need to realize in the right time whether you are having the dharma of a comedian or the dharma of a politician,
In
and then
25
stick to that
seconds,
dharma, and then stick to that dharma.
in 25 seconds, you've gone from Goa, Uttarakhand to Zelensky to Krishna, Gita, and Navjot Sidhu. I mean, viewers, I know you're still with us. I can see it, but thank you for staying with us. But we'll come back with such fascinating insights, Jay. Going to Manipur, right? This is the last state, and again, the most no BJP had never come to power in Manipur. This is the
Yeah.
first time they've done that. Usually, they had.
Last time they had lesser seats. The Congress was quite close to power. They had 28 on 60 last
This
time.
time the
But
Congress is so far away from power that they have lesser seats than Janata Dal United. And yes, this is the same Janata Dal United that Nitish Kumar is a part of. Can you please
absolutely.
explain how did Congress get less seats than JDU?
No, again, I think Northeast is a complete candidate-based election.
Yeah.
Like almost it's Goa to the extreme. The party symbol is incidental. Like, it's okay.
Yeah.
I got a party symbol. So,
Yeah.
and it's very funny. Northeast typically, again, we have to always understand the economic structures. These are not states with a huge industrial and tax collection base of their own. So, right from the candidate downwards, they would prefer to be well aligned with a party that is already in power at the center. So once you're in power at the center, walking your way through a northeastern state becomes much easy. The Congress had that privilege for decades and decades and decades. Now the Bharatiya Janata Party is enjoying that privilege.
I think that is the biggest indicator, na, that BJP is now become the default party of governance and the biggest national poll around which the results evolve. That the whole lock, stock, and barrel would go to them, right?
Yeah.
So then you have Kuki People's Alliance, which is essentially a tribal formation focusing on
Yeah.
certain tribal seats, right? But again, a lot of independents will win in the northeast and smaller states that we've seen, right? Maybe that's why we
Yeah,
should have smaller constituencies.
The National People's Party is already their alliance partner in Meghalaya. With whatever fiction they have, they're already the alliance partner.
No, but that's what I'm saying. That Congress, which is established in the state, where Mr. Ibobi Singh, I think he won 3 elections in a row, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken.
yeah,
He
yeah,
uh, he ensured that them, and Biren Singh, of course, was within the footballer, within the thing, and who very proudly said that this is my second greatest achievement. First greatest was when I won the gold medal for India and stuff. So he's a fascinating character,
yeah.
right? And but you have the complete capitulation that the people in Manipur don't even see Congress as a state party, right? Now Congress is being seen as a very regional party, and
Right.
people are ready to vote for the Janata Dal United and the National People's Party, which is actually a party of another state. This is like Shiv Sena coming to Gujarat and winning 10 seats.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
I mean,
No, as
essentially
I
what
said,
it is.
now if you look at all these parties, the JDU
Yeah.
is in power in Bihar, NPF in Nagaland, NPP in Manipur. So as I said, going back to the Silicon Valley principle, wherever capital finds its buyers, it just makes its place. They've just made their place.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, guys, we are getting close to the last sort of bit of it. Please, guys, write to us in the comments. I know you have a lot more comments, but here's a couple of questions. I can only flash the questions we got on YouTube on here. The Twitter questions, unfortunately, I'm not able to. One of the questions is, what do you make of Shekhar Gupta's most recent column, which seems to advocate to solve balkanization of India? Now, I'm not a fan of personally. I'm not a fan of Shekhar's column. That column. I don't know if balkanization is a word I would use. I think more likely than not, I think the advocacy seems to be that what the sometimes the DMK does, or sometimes what the Telugu Desam does, right?
No,
Like,
no, 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 no,
they,
no. Adit, we need to
yeah,
call out a couple of things here.
yeah,
See, the analysts and the narrative setters, need to
yeah,
maintain the same standard of argument
hmm,
when
hmm,
they talk of the past and the present.
yeah,
When they talk of the DMK and the TDP, they talk of it in terms of progressive regionalism,
exactly. I was
DMK's
coming to that.
affirmative action, their welfare models. But when
Yes.
North Indian regional parties take the same space, they start calling it balkanization. I
Hmm,
mean, this hypocrisy must be given up.
hmm.
Right? So there is nothing like balkanized. Arey Baba, these are the same people who constituted your Janta Party and Janta Dal. It's just that now they find it more comfortable to be on their own. I mean, they
Hmm.
are the same dynast, the same children, grandchildren, the same Lohiya Parivar, everything is same.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
So why
So,
why call it with the term balkanization?
no, no, no. I think I don't think that the term what our viewer was saying was, is, can we interpret this as a soft balkanization? And I was like, I don't think it is. I think what they were saying is ki divide it along this line. So I think it's a very knee jerk. Not. I think the question is very important, but I think Shekhar's column is a very knee jerk reaction. But there is also sort of a frustrated reaction amongst a lot of other people, because I think Shekhar understood the power of Hindu vote, and the other
Right.
people have not understood yet by the Hindu vote is essentially what's leading the BJP to a victory. Now we have a second question on I think, will the BJP import leaders in Punjab like it has done in Bengal and Assam to start a new long-term strategy? I think there will
I
be, right?
wouldn't be I wouldn't be surprised. See,
Okay.
even before the election, we've had Dhinsas and a lot of other people coming into the BJP,
I
right?
mean, Amrinder Singh,
Amrinder Singh,
for
right?
God's sake,
So
yeah.
I quite feel many more people will come in based on winnability. And the BJP, as I said, for the next 1 or 2 years, my guess is that they would be at their adventurous best over there.
No, but this is a very Shekhar Gupta type term, adventurous best, right? I think, no, I think probably you're right, but the real question, what he was trying to ask, I believe, is, will it work long term, right? And I don't think that is going to work long term. That can work currently to get you like that 15, 20 seats to become a very serious player. Right. And so one of the questions we got on Twitter, by the way, Shatrughan Sinha has now joined the Trinamool Congress today. So that is
Wow.
the हाँ मतलब
Definitely.
we didn't even know and I was joking कि मतलब कि Shatrughan Sinha has gone from he was in BJP of course first but then since 2014 he's just been jumping up and down. So he went to Congress in 2019 then to Trinamool Congress and I don't know if Punham Sinha his wife is still with the Samajwadi Party because she had gone to the SP to fight a thing. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Acha, there is one very funny question: is, will Rahul Gandhi resign? And if yes, how will it affect BJP?
Well. Let's without naming portals, websites,
Yeah,
news channels. Even the most pro-Congress ones are saying, yeah, there will be loyalists to defend the party in the end, and the Gandhi shall remain.
yeah,
So now, when even media houses and outlets with that bent of mind are using this language,
yeah.
there's nothing that remains with me to say.
Exactly. And now we've got a plethora of questions. So I'm keeping them. How much of anti-BJP space can Aam Aadmi Party take over from the Congress and how fast can it? This actually, Jay,
This is
comes
a
up to
very relevant question.
yeah, and this is our good friend Mohal is asking that question, and this is also relevant to the Gujarat polls and to what we are seeing in urban sort of India. And this is
I
second
I
question.
think I think eventually the Aam Aadmi Party will take over the Congress space. If you simply go by data in the
Not
Surat
everywhere
municipal,
though.
no, not every, but slowly, this is going to be the vulture which will be feasting on the cops. That's very clear. I'm
Ouch.
very clear about this.
Yeah.
So so this so but see there are two municipal polls that I really see very importantly. One is the Chandigarh municipal polls, and the
Hmm.
other is Surat.
Hmm.
Right, in both the places they've taken votes from the BJP and in Surat from the Congress.
Hmm.
So I do see AAP taking that space. It's not going to displace the Congress today. Maybe it's 15 years, 20
Hmm.
years.
Hmm.
But clearly, AAP is poised to be the new center party in India. I think I'm very clear about that. It's only and only because it has an agenda which is going beyond parochialism.
Hmm. Fascinating.
Unfortunately, most of the other parties are still viewed as parochial. I mean, look at the efforts Trinamool is making to become a non-Bengali national party. I mean, where has it gone? It didn't even win a seat in Goa
Yeah.
with all the song and dance,
Yeah.
right? So
Absolutely.
every party aspires.
Hmm.
This party has got the brand equity for it. None of them have
And I
got the
think
cadre for
after
it.
no, and after losing the election, and see, there is another vote also, the urban vote, right? Because when you talk about freebies and a lot of rural votes, the urban vote sometimes becomes open and open for grabbing, right? So will it grab that? We don't know, but that seems to be a possibility of that happening. But
No, I simply say that because of one thing.
yeah,
See, India's economy is turning non-agricultural. Political parties need to realize that they need to have a narrative for this portion of the economy.
hmm.
And Mr. Kejriwal currently is the only player in that space who's having a narrative for that portion of the economy.
And it
Most
helps
other
that Rahul
parties don't
Gandhi.
even seem to discover it.
And it helps that Rahul Gandhi is not resigning, right? So quickly answer that question. Will the Gandhis resigning affect the BJP? I personally don't think so because I think BJP is embedded
I
now.
think the Congress has already hit another. Not more damage to be done. Nothing more damage has to be
No,
done now.
I'll tell
It's
you where
already
it
hit
will
another.
affect. Where it will affect a little bit is there are 200 seats or 180 seats in India where there is a straight contest between BJP and Congress. And if the Gandhis continue to come to power or continue to stay in power in the Congress leadership, the BJP will continue to win a majority of those seats. So whether contestants come or not, we don't know. This is the absolute last question, guys, and then we'll have to wrap up. But any predictions for the BMC polls, Jay?
No, I'm not.
No.
I've not done polls. I'm not making. Adit, that one, if you want, you can hazard a guess.
Acha, I personally think it's still going to be a neck and neck fight between the BJP and Sena in some states. The real debate will be if the Sena manages to get a strategic understanding with NCP and Congress or not. If they don't, and if it's a four-cornered contest, then it's anyone's game. But the Sena is not down and out. For all the jokes we make about the Sena has actually gained a lot of ground in Maharashtra and sustained a lot of its support base in Mumbai. So that's what. Would you agree with that at least, Jay? That it has
Yeah, yeah.
sustained its support.
It has sustained. It has sustained. Very true.
So, okay, before we wrap up, one last look at the electoral map. This is what has changed in India right now. The BJP has become the dominant party nationally. It already was, but in Uttar Pradesh, it has just consolidated 255 seats on its own, decline from last time. But last time you had 300 plus result, so this is a phenomenal result. And then you have the Samajwadi Party becoming the second pole, getting about, with their alliance, getting 35% to plays to about 40 to 43%. So about a clear 7-8% gap, almost a Gujarat level result where you have a 7-8% gap. But then this time you also have a BSP which gets 12. Who knows? The BSP and Congress might form an alliance last time, next time. Just
No, 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 no. I was just thinking of it before our discussion, and frankly, they don't have a choice.
Yeah,
They don't have a choice.
it'll be the 15% rule, because that is, the psephologists call it the 15% rules, that once you get to a critical mass of 15% vote, you get more seats than what you actually can get. That you get that cascading effect in that.
Absolutely.
From UP to Punjab, where Aam Aadmi Party has completely dominated the scene, getting 90 plus seats. And everyone else is like 23, 20%. The Congress is at 23, Akali Dal and BSP are at 20, and BJP is at 6 to 7%. Moving from Punjab to Goa, which is the maddening state of Goa, where you have a proper pie chart. Like it could be a mathematical pie chart where everybody has some of the pie, and BJP getting the largest share of the pie,
It's a proper
33%.
rainbow. It's a proper rainbow.
Proper rainbow. A tribute to Goa, that the most colorful pie chart comes from Goa. And then Manipur, which says I'm not far behind, I can provide some color too. And
Yeah,
with
it's
with
equally
with
colorful.
all these formations going. Apparently, Shiv Sena also contested Manipur. This is the funniest thing ever. 0.3% of the vote. And then lastly, Uttarakhand, the hilly state, which gives the most interesting results. It's taking a little while. Maybe we completely crashed the election commission of India's servers. It's taking a while to load the Uttarakhand results, but basically BJP winning 47 seats in
Yes.
Uttarakhand, like we discussed. So, closing comments, Jay, before we wrap up this discussion.
Uh, I think one thing is very clear. Two things are very clear. First, if a party is professing that a welfare state is the way to go, an efficient welfare state works for them. Second, and as I said, that's what the AAP represents, that there is a huge section which is aspiring for a change, which has moved into new economics of its own. And that is a threat to all the established parties, the BJP and the Congress. And the threat is come, it's here at their doorstep. The earlier they both realize it, the better for them.
I have to show this very funny prediction where one of our viewers made. He's like, Raj Thakre should be the mayor of Mumbai. So Raj Thakre has gone from the organizer of Mr. Michael Jackson.
Listen. I'm all for this as long as he keeps his promise that he'll waive off all the tolls entering Mumbai.
There we go. No, but Raj Thakre has gone from organizing the Michael Jackson Lata Mangeshkar concerts to becoming the kingmaker of Maharashtra for 6 weeks or 6 months in 2009, where he managed to flip a few seats because of polling, taking a few votes away from Sena BJP, to now being in contention to become the mayor of Mumbai.
Yeah.
I mean, his decline has been spectacular. Like the interviews he used to give, right, and his language and God knows what. So who knows what will happen to Raj Thakre? But if he does do something extraordinary or something funny, we'll be here to talk about it. Jai, thank you so much for joining. This has
Thank
been a
you.
fascinating
Thank you.
discussion. Thank you for all our
Thank you.
viewers, listeners who've stayed with us, and to all of those who you guys are going to stream it later or listen to it on SoundCloud. Please write to us. Please let us know what you think about our podcast. We'll be back soon with more discussions on the assembly elections, on state elections, national elections, and the impact on this. Comments, likes, share, subscribe. You can please like the window, share this video on your social media, and subscribe to Mindmakers. I know we've had way more viewers than subscribers, so please, we need to get our subscribers count up so we can do more of these with you. We can get more experts, we can do more analysis. But till then, it's goodbye from Jay and I. We'll be back soon with this. Thank you so much for joining in.
Thanks. Pleasure.